If you gave yourself 6 months, no excuses, no endless delays, no scrolling away your focus, what would your life look like? Think about it. 6 months isn't forever. It's not some far-off fantasy. It's half a year. Yet half a year of concentrated focus is enough to make you unrecognizable to yourself. People underestimate the power of 6 months because they keep imagining change must take years. But the truth is, years keep slipping away because they never commit to even half a year. You've probably felt the frustration of repeating the same cycles, starting with energy, quitting when it got inconvenient, waking up to realize you're still stuck in the same patterns. That's the exhaustion of half-lived effort. And here's the hard truth. You don't need another someday plan. You need an honest moment right now where you decide that your life will not continue like this. 6 months of total honesty and relentless action can flip everything. If you're watching this late at night, maybe with your headphones in while the world is quiet, let that thought sink in. 6 months. If you're listening early in the morning, half awake, wondering if today will be different from yesterday, here's your invitation. And before we move forward, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Let's see how many of us around the world are locking into this same challenge together. And make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next step in this journey. Audiobook Sanctuary is building a space where you can return daily for guidance that keeps you moving. Now let's get into the real start. Honesty. The single biggest barrier between you and the version of yourself you dream about isn't knowledge. It's not talent. It's not opportunity. It's your refusal to tell the truth about what's ruining your life. You can't move forward if you keep pretending you're fine while quietly decaying inside routines that keep you small. You can't step into growth while protecting the same habits that drain you. You can't fix what you refuse to face. Most people avoid this because truth stings. It strips away comfort. It forces you to look at the late nights you've wasted, the food you use to numb yourself, the hours poured into meaningless distractions. It makes you admit that some people in your circle don't actually want you to rise. And worse, that you're the one allowing them to stay close because you fear being alone. These are heavy admissions, but they're the birthplace of change. Here's where the narrative shifts. Stop dramatizing and simply get honest. Ask yourself 3 questions every single day. First, what am I doing right now that's holding me back? Second, what am I tolerating that drains my energy? Third, what choices am I repeating that I already know lead me nowhere? Write the answers down. Don't dress them up. Don't excuse them. Just write them. Brutal honesty written in ink is more powerful than 1,000 motivational quotes. Maybe your answer is procrastination. You've turned "I'll do it tomorrow" into a lifestyle, and tomorrow never arrives. Maybe it's comfort food or endless entertainment, escapes that leave you feeling sluggish and ashamed. Maybe it's mindset, telling yourself you're not capable, that it's safer to stay small. Whatever your truth is, once you face it, you can't unsee it. That's the discomfort that sparks transformation. And honesty isn't a one-time confession. It's a daily practice. Every morning you ask, am I building myself right now or breaking myself? Every evening you ask, did I live today as the person I want to become? Or did I collapse back into old patterns? Those questions cut through noise. They keep you awake to yourself. Think of honesty as a mirror. Most people avoid the mirror, afraid of their own reflection. But the mirror doesn't lie. It shows your late mornings, your empty routines, your wasted time. It also shows the possibility of a new face staring back in 6 months if you keep moving. Your mirror is your accountability partner, and it will not flatter you. Here's the power of this practice. Once you get brutally honest, excuses lose their grip. You can't keep telling yourself you're too busy when you can clearly see the hours lost in distraction. You can't keep blaming your environment when you've identified the choices you control. You can't keep saying you'll start later when the truth is that later has already cost you too much. Honesty forces responsibility, and responsibility fuels change. But honesty must translate into action. Saying, "I'm done with these habits," isn't enough. Change begins when you back that declaration with movement. Wake up earlier. Cut the distraction app. Clean up the food that leaves you drained. Step away from the person who mocks your goals. Each action says, "I refuse to lie to myself anymore." That's when momentum begins. Here's the paradox. You think being honest will make you weaker, but the opposite is true. Honesty gives you back your power. Because once you stop hiding, you can finally direct your energy toward building. You start noticing small victories. A sharper morning, a better choice at lunch, a night spent planning instead of wasting. And those small victories stack. 6 months of stacked honesty turns into transformation. So remember this: comfort is easy, but it's poisonous. Honesty is uncomfortable, but it's liberating. Every day you choose whether to protect your illusions or face your truth. And only one of those paths leads to the life you say you want. This is the first step. Look your reality in the eye. Write it down. Speak it out loud if you need to. Own it. Because without that foundation, nothing else will hold. 6 months of change starts with one decision today: to stop lying to yourself and to start cutting out what doesn't belong. And once you've faced that truth, the next natural step becomes clear. It's not just about knowing what's wrong. It's about breaking the habits that make you despise yourself. That's where we're headed next. You already know the habits that chip away at you. You don't need another lecture to identify them. Because when you look in the mirror, when you collapse into bed at night, when you wake up sluggish in the morning, you feel the evidence. These are the patterns you've allowed to settle into your life. And though they feel small, they grow into chains. If honesty was the first step, then this is the second. Break the habits that make you hate yourself. It sounds harsh, but think about it. Every time you reach for the phone before even opening your eyes fully, every time you binge on food you swore you'd stop eating, every time you scroll into oblivion instead of tackling the work that matters, you're not just wasting time. You're reinforcing the idea that you can't be trusted to do what you said you'd do. And over time, that's where self-hate is born. Not from one huge failure, but from hundreds of tiny betrayals of your own word. Let's be clear, these habits didn't appear overnight. Many started as coping mechanisms. Maybe you picked them up when life was stressful and you needed comfort. Maybe they once gave you relief. But now, they've turned into a routine of self-abandonment. They no longer soothe you. They keep you numb. And each time you repeat them, you feel yourself shrinking. What do these habits look like? For some, it's food that drains energy instead of fueling it. For others, it's endless entertainment. Hours lost in shows or videos that leave nothing behind but guilt. For many, it's avoiding responsibility. Skipping workouts, pushing deadlines, delaying conversations. And let's not forget the quieter ones. Self-criticism that plays on loop in your head, telling you that you'll never be enough. All of these are subtle, but together, they build a heavy weight you carry everywhere. The solution isn't perfection. The solution is decision. Every habit is either building you or breaking you. There is no neutral. The meals you eat, the conversations you choose, the way you spend your evenings, they are all casting votes for the person you will become. And if you're tired of looking in the mirror and feeling ashamed, then it's time to change what you're voting for. Here's the rule: no more actions that leave you ashamed. Write it down. Say it out loud. That's the line. If a habit leaves you feeling guilty, drained, or disappointed in yourself, cut it. Not tomorrow, not after the weekend. Today. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable. Your brain will crave the comfort of old patterns. You'll feel the pull to go back. That's not weakness. That's wiring. You've trained yourself to seek these escapes, and now you have to rewire. Start small. Don't try to eliminate everything at once. Pick one habit, the one you know hurts you the most. Maybe it's late-night scrolling. Maybe it's skipping breakfast and relying on junk all day. Maybe it's avoiding the workout you promised yourself. Pick one. Replace it. When you feel the urge to slip back, redirect. Walk outside. Drink water. Journal for 10 minutes. Call the urge out for what it is, a craving for comfort that keeps you stuck. Then move past it. Each time you resist, you build proof. And that proof matters more than the habit itself. Because proof says, I am not a slave to my routines. I can change. And when you collect proof day after day, your confidence starts to return. You wake up lighter. Your mind gets clearer. You stop fighting yourself, and you start respecting yourself. But let's be honest. Breaking habits isn't glamorous. There won't be fireworks the first night you choose to put your phone away early. No one will cheer when you cook a clean meal instead of ordering greasy food. No one will pat you on the back when you sit quietly with your thoughts instead of numbing them. But you will notice, and your future self will notice. 6 months of quiet, unglamorous victories is enough to build a version of yourself you actually admire. Think about the alternative. Keep repeating the same cycle. Wake up tired, avoid what matters, numb yourself, fall asleep disappointed. Do that for 6 more months. Where does it lead? Nowhere new. Just deeper into the same frustration you already feel. That's why the discomfort of change is a gift. Because discomfort means you're finally stepping outside the loop. This is where you stop negotiating with your bad habits. No more, just one more day. No more, I'll start on Monday. That thinking is poison. You've already tried it, and it hasn't worked. Instead, decide today. The old cycle ends here. Not with talk, but with action. Every time you cut a habit that makes you hate yourself, you make room for one that makes you proud. Imagine the ripple effect. You replace scrolling with reading 10 pages of a book. You swap junk food for a meal that fuels you. You trade skipping workouts for a simple routine that energizes you. Suddenly, your mornings feel sharper. Your nights feel lighter. And instead of dragging through each day, you start leading it. That's what this section is about. Reclaiming your self-respect. Because when you respect yourself, you don't need external motivation. You show up because it's who you are now. And once that shift happens, the whole game changes. So don't just think about it. Act on it. Break the habits that quietly destroy you and replace them with ones that build you. 6 months of consistent replacement is enough to make you unrecognizable in the best way possible. And once you've started breaking these chains, you need something to replace them with. That's where the next step comes in. It's not enough to remove the bad. You must design routines that force you to grow, day in and day out. That's the next layer of transformation. Once you've been honest about what's hurting you and started breaking the habits that make you shrink, the next step is to design a routine that forces growth. Growth does not happen by accident. It isn't waiting for you at the end of a lucky week. It shows up only when you put your days under structure that demands more from you than comfort ever will. Think about how most people live. They wake up and immediately hand their attention over to a glowing screen. Before their feet even hit the ground, they're scrolling through notifications, reacting to other people's lives. By the time they realize what happened, they've already spent their first hour in distraction. And when your first hour is wasted, your day tends to follow. That's not leadership. That's surrender. Your morning is your leverage point. You can either use it to sharpen yourself or you can give it away. Building a growth routine means protecting your first hour like it's sacred. What do you do when you wake up? Do you move your body to activate energy? Do you drink water instead of chugging caffeine right away? Do you breathe in silence or jot down 3 clear goals before the noise begins? These are not minor details. They set the tone for everything else. When you start your day with intention, you don't need motivation. Intention becomes your compass. It doesn't matter if you feel tired or if you're not in the mood. You've already built a map to follow. That's how discipline grows, by replacing feelings with structure. You are no longer deciding in the moment whether to act. You've already decided the night before. And this is key. Don't overload your routine with 15 tasks. Complexity kills consistency. Instead, choose a handful of actions that actually stretch you. A short workout, reading 10 pages of a book that feeds your mind, writing for 15 minutes to clear your head, cleaning your space to create order. These small but deliberate practices compound. They create evidence that you are living differently, not drifting through autopilot. But your routine isn't just about mornings. What about your work hours? Are you reacting all day, jumping from distraction to distraction? Or are you locking in on one task at a time, pushing through the discomfort of focus? A growth routine demands that you do hard things daily, not once a week, not when you feel inspired, but every day. That could be tackling the assignment you've been putting off, making the uncomfortable call, or pushing yourself to improve a skill. The harder path is where growth hides, and then comes the evening. Too many people ruin tomorrow by how they spend tonight. They fill their nights with noise, with junk food, with distractions that leave them groggy and unfocused the next morning. A growth routine flips that. Evening becomes your reset, your chance to close the day with clarity. You reflect, what did I build today? What needs to change tomorrow? You plan. You wind down with intention so your sleep restores you. That way, you wake up ready to lead again instead of dragging yourself into another half-lived day. This is how momentum builds. Each day becomes a brick. One morning of discipline may not change your life. One evening of planning may not feel dramatic. But string them together for 6 months and you'll have built a foundation no excuse can shake. The secret is repetition, not intensity. The person who quietly follows through every day will always outgrow the person who does something big once and quits. And don't forget reflection. Without reflection, you drift. You won't notice the small slip that turns into a relapse. You won't catch the distraction that's stealing hours from your week. 10 minutes a day to ask, am I getting better? Am I proud of how I live today? Keeps you awake to yourself. Growth demands awareness as much as action. The beautiful thing about designing a growth routine is that it turns discipline into identity. At first, it feels forced. You're dragging yourself into the workout, into the book, into the journal. But over time, it becomes normal. Then it becomes who you are. You no longer think of yourself as someone trying to build discipline. You are disciplined. You are the type of person who shows up no matter how you feel. That identity shift is where true confidence lives. So here's the call. Design your routine like your life depends on it. Because it does. Protect your mornings. Focus your work hours. Reflect in your evenings. Keep it simple, but keep it demanding. Your routine is the training ground where your stronger self is built. And once you've structured your days this way, the next decision becomes unavoidable. Growth requires you to sacrifice comfort. Every single day, you'll face choices between what feels easy and what builds you. The next step is learning to choose progress over comfort again and again, because that's where transformation accelerates. Comfort has always whispered to you. It tells you to stay in bed for just a little longer. It tells you that ordering junk food tonight won't matter. It tells you that skipping the workout, dodging the difficult conversation, or procrastinating on your goal is harmless because you'll do it tomorrow. But here's the truth. Comfort is not your friend. Comfort is the invisible trap that has held you in place for years. If you really want to change in 6 months, you must make a conscious choice. Progress over ease, growth over comfort, every single day. Comfort feels good in the moment. That's why it's seductive. But its cost shows up later. Low energy, regret, stagnation, and the quiet pain of knowing you're capable of more, but settling for less. Progress, on the other hand, often feels uncomfortable in the moment. It asks you to sweat, to stretch, to say no when everyone else says yes. But its rewards accumulate over time. Strength, confidence, momentum, and a life you can respect. Let's break it down. Every day, you face dozens of small crossroads. Wake up when the alarm rings or hit snooze. Cook a meal that fuels you or grab the fastest junk you can find. Put your phone down and focus or scroll another 30 minutes into distraction. Go for the workout or skip it because you're too tired. These choices may seem minor, but they are the true architects of your life. They decide who you become. Each time you choose comfort, you reinforce the weaker version of yourself. Each time you choose progress, you strengthen the version that can handle more, do more, and be more. Think about that the next time you're tempted to stay comfortable. Are you reinforcing weakness or building strength? The danger of comfort is that it doesn't come with alarms or warning lights. It feels safe even while it's stealing your potential. You can live years under its spell and never realize how much it has cost you until you look back with regret. That's why the discipline to choose progress matters. It breaks you out of the fog before decades slip by. Choosing progress does not mean you will never feel temptation again. You will. Your mind will come up with excuses. I deserve this break. I've had a long day. It doesn't matter this once. Recognize that voice for what it is. The voice of the version of you that wants to stay small. You don't need to believe it. You don't need to obey it. You can choose differently, even when it's uncomfortable. Start simple. Identify one thing you've been avoiding because it feels hard. Maybe it's tackling a messy project. Maybe it's speaking the truth in a conversation you've been dodging. Maybe it's showing up for exercise. Do it today. Push through the discomfort. And when you finish, notice how you feel. That quiet confidence, that proof that you can do hard things, is the reward progress gives you. Then repeat tomorrow, and again the day after. Progress is not about dramatic one-time breakthroughs. It's about small, repeated decisions that build momentum. When you string together 6 months of progress over comfort, you won't just feel better. You'll be different. You'll walk differently, think differently, and carry yourself with a strength you can't fake. Here's a mindset shift. You don't need to enjoy discomfort to grow. You just need to stop fearing it. Discomfort is proof that you're stretching. Discomfort is the sound of growth happening. Once you learn to embrace that, you stop running from the very thing that makes you stronger. And remember this: comfort is addictive, but so is progress. At first, it feels unnatural to choose the harder path. But the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. You start craving the pride of doing what others avoid. You start respecting yourself in a way no distraction can provide. And that self-respect becomes fuel that drives you further than comfort ever could. So make a new rule. When faced with the choice between comfort and growth, choose growth. Not once, not occasionally, but every day. Because every one of those choices builds a future only progress can give you. This is how transformation accelerates. By stringing together countless small decisions that favor growth over ease. And once you master this shift, the next challenge becomes clear: resisting the endless lure of quick pleasure. Because comfort often hides in disguise, and one of its most dangerous masks is instant gratification. That's the battlefield we'll step into next. Progress over comfort is powerful, but there's another layer you must master if you're serious about changing your life in 6 months. Resisting quick pleasure. Instant gratification is comfort dressed in a shinier outfit. It's the small hit of dopamine you reach for when things feel boring, stressful, or uncomfortable. And while each hit feels harmless in the moment, over time it rewires your brain, shortens your patience, and robs you of the ability to build anything that lasts. Look around. Our world is built to feed you quick pleasure. Social media gives you endless scrolls of stimulation. Food delivery apps drop processed comfort right at your door. Streaming platforms keep you hooked with autoplay. Notifications ping constantly, demanding your attention. Each one trains you to expect fast rewards, no effort required. But here's the cost. The more you rely on instant gratification, the less you can tolerate the slower, harder process of real growth. Think about it. Building health, financial stability, meaningful relationships, and self-respect, none of these arrive instantly. They demand patience. They demand consistent effort without immediate payoff. And if your brain has been conditioned to crave quick relief, you'll abandon the long game every time. That's why most people live in loops, consuming, distracting, numbing, and wondering why their lives don't improve. So here's the shift. Retrain your mind to choose delayed gratification. Train yourself to feel proud not because something was easy, but because you endured discomfort long enough to create real results. That begins with awareness. Every time you reach for quick pleasure, pause and ask, what am I avoiding right now? Because most of the time, you're not hungry. You're bored. You're not interested. You're escaping. You're not tired. You're unmotivated. Recognizing that is the first step. Next, redirect. Instead of scrolling, take a walk. Instead of grabbing junk food, drink water and make a clean meal. Instead of numbing out with noise, journal your thoughts or sit quietly in reflection. At first, your brain will resist. It will scream for the old habit. That's normal. It's programming. But every time you resist, you rewire. You send a new signal. I am not led by urges. I lead myself. This process is uncomfortable, but so is staying stuck. Which discomfort do you want? The discomfort of discipline or the discomfort of regret? Because both cost you, but only one pays you back. 6 months of discipline will buy you strength, clarity, and freedom. 6 months of quick pleasure will buy you nothing but more craving and more emptiness. Start small. Maybe today you limit your phone use to specific blocks of time. Maybe you cut out one processed food that always drags you down. Maybe you set a rule to finish one meaningful task before you allow yourself any entertainment. These may sound simple, but they're revolutionary because they shift who is in control: your impulses or your intention. And here's the reward. Once you break free from the grip of instant gratification, your mind feels lighter. You can focus longer. You can sit in silence without reaching for a distraction. You start waking up with purpose instead of craving. And that shift alone sets you apart from most people who remain trapped in their own dopamine cycles. But this is not just about control. It's about identity. Each time you resist quick pleasure, you prove to yourself that your vision matters more than your craving. That proof builds belief. And belief is what carries you when motivation disappears. So the rule is simple. Stop feeding what weakens you. Feed what strengthens you. Choose what builds patience over what steals it. Because 6 months of delayed gratification will give you a life you actually respect. And here's the bridge to the next level. Resisting quick pleasure prepares you for the bigger battles. Because the truth is, the hardest things in your life, the ones you've been running from, are still waiting for you. And if you want true transformation, you can't avoid them any longer. The next step is facing and doing the hard things you've always delayed. That's where confidence, courage, and lasting change are born. By now, you've faced the truth. Broken habits that kept you small, built routines for growth, chosen progress over comfort, and started resisting the constant pull of quick pleasure. But there's still one wall standing in your way: the hard things you've been avoiding. These are the heavy doors between you and the life you say you want. And the only way through is to stop running and push them open. Everyone has a list of hard things they put off. That tough conversation you know would clear the air but terrifies you to start. That project sitting untouched on your desk because it overwhelms you. That financial responsibility you've been pretending doesn't exist. That workout you always promise to begin but somehow never do. These are the avoided corners of your life, and they add up to a quiet weight you carry everywhere. Avoidance feels easier in the moment. It whispers, "Wait until you're ready," or "Do it later when it feels less scary." But here's the problem. Later never arrives. The fear doesn't vanish. The pressure doesn't dissolve. In fact, avoidance multiplies the weight. Every day you delay, you don't save energy. You spend it worrying, stressing, and shaming yourself. It's not the hard thing itself that exhausts you. It's the anticipation, the running from it. And that's why the cure is action. Not perfect action. Not smooth or graceful action. Just action. Send the email. Make the phone call. Start the first 10 minutes of the task. Speak the sentence you've been swallowing. Pay one installment of the debt. Clean one corner of the room. The moment you take the step, the fog begins to clear. The fear you built up in your head shrinks under the light of movement. Here's a truth most people never learn. Hard things don't get easier before you do them. They get easier because you do them. Your courage expands by stepping into discomfort, not by waiting for fear to fade. Each time you act, despite trembling hands or a racing heart, you train yourself to handle more. That's how grit is built. This is not about masochism. It's not about chasing pain. It's about understanding that strength lives on the other side of resistance. If your days are filled only with what's convenient, you are teaching yourself to stay weak. But if your days include actions you'd rather avoid but choose anyway, you are teaching yourself resilience. And resilience is the muscle that will carry you through storms bigger than today's. Start small, but start today. Make a list of everything you've been putting off. Don't justify it. Don't explain it away. Just write it. Then pick one. Do it before the day ends. It might be uncomfortable, but it won't kill you. In fact, it will free you. And tomorrow, pick another. 6 months of doing what you've been avoiding will not just change your to-do list. It will change who you are. Because here's the reward. Every avoided action you finally face returns energy to you. Instead of carrying the weight of guilt, you carry the lightness of completion. Instead of seeing yourself as someone who runs, you start seeing yourself as someone who stands. Confidence isn't built by waiting to feel strong. Confidence is built by doing the hard thing and realizing you survived. Imagine who you'd be 6 months from now if you faced every hard thing currently haunting you. That debt gone, that body stronger, that conversation resolved, that clutter cleared, that project finally launched. That's not a fantasy. That's the direct result of 6 months of daily courage. And remember, you don't need to wait for motivation. Motivation is a weak ally here. Discipline is stronger. Action is strongest. When you push through, even shaking, even stumbling, you prove something vital. You can trust yourself, and that trust is the bridge to the next step of transformation. Rebuilding your relationship with yourself. Because after all the progress, after all the struggle, the deepest change comes when you know you can finally depend on your own word. That's what we'll step into next. There's a quiet kind of pain that doesn't show on your face but lives inside you. The pain of not trusting yourself. You feel it every time you say you'll do something and don't follow through. It's in the mornings when you promise to wake early but hit snooze again. It's in the evenings when you swear today will be different but slip back into the same routines. It's the hollow feeling when your own words no longer carry weight because your actions have betrayed them too many times. That's the cost of self-betrayal. Without trust in yourself, even small goals feel impossible. You start lowering your standards. You stop dreaming bigger because deep down, you believe you won't follow through anyway. And that's when life starts to shrink. Not because you aren't capable, but because you no longer believe you are. 6 months of change cannot happen if you don't rebuild this trust. The good news? Trust is not abstract. It's not a mystery. It's built exactly the same way it's broken, one decision at a time. When you break promises to yourself, you weaken the relationship. When you keep them, you strengthen it. And just like any relationship, consistency matters more than intensity. So start with something small but meaningful. Wake up at the time you said you would. Finish the workout you committed to. Cook the clean meal you promised yourself. Write for 15 minutes if that's what you said you'd do. These aren't random acts of productivity. They're bricks in the foundation of self-trust. Each act says, I can rely on myself again. At first, it will feel fragile. You may even slip. But here's the key. Don't turn a slip into a spiral. One missed day doesn't erase the progress you've made. What destroys self-trust isn't failure. It's quitting after failure. Instead, get back on track immediately. When you do, you teach yourself that setbacks are temporary, not permanent. That's how trust solidifies. And soon, something subtle begins to shift. You no longer need to hype yourself up with motivational speeches. You no longer rely on external validation to feel worthy. You walk differently. You carry yourself with quiet certainty. Because you know deep down that when you say you'll do something, you'll do it. That certainty is worth more than talent, more than luck, more than motivation. It's the core of confidence. Think about it. The people you admire didn't get there by luck alone. They kept promises to themselves when no one was watching. They built an identity out of discipline, out of consistency, out of action. You have the same ability. It doesn't require perfection. It requires proof. And proof is built daily. 6 months from now, you could look in the mirror and see someone different. Not just in appearance, but in spirit. Someone who doesn't hesitate. Someone who doesn't negotiate with weakness. Someone who trusts their own word. And once you trust yourself, you stop chasing validation from others. You stop needing permission. You move with peace because you know who you are. That's the final piece of this journey. Ownership. Because once you've built trust in yourself, the next natural step is to take complete responsibility for every choice you make. No more blaming, no more waiting, no more outsourcing your power. That's where true transformation locks in, and that's where we'll land next. Ownership is the climax of this entire journey. It's where everything comes together. You've been honest about your flaws, broken destructive habits, designed routines that demand growth, chosen progress over comfort, resisted quick pleasures, faced the hard things, and rebuilt trust in yourself. Now comes the moment that decides whether these changes will last. You must own every choice you make. Think about the power of that statement. Your life is not the sum of what happens to you. It's the sum of how you respond. Every day, every decision, no matter how small, is shaping your reality. Ownership means no more hiding behind excuses. No more, "I didn't have time." No more, "That's just how things are." Ownership says, "I chose this, and because I chose it, I can choose differently." This isn't about guilt. It's not about beating yourself up for past decisions. It's about liberation. Because once you own your choices, you reclaim control. If you ate poorly today, own it. If you wasted hours scrolling, own it. If you skipped the workout, own it. Why? Because when you own it, you can change it. But if you keep blaming your environment, your circumstances, or other people, you hand away the very power you need to transform. 6 months of full ownership will make you unstoppable. You'll begin to see every day as a fresh canvas. Wake up? That's your choice. Speak with integrity? Your choice. Respect your body? Your choice. Focus on your goals instead of distractions? Your choice. The world may throw chaos at you, but how you show up inside that chaos will always be yours to command. And here's the final payoff. Ownership breeds respect. Not just respect from others, but respect from yourself. Because when you know you're responsible for the way your life looks, you stop waiting and you start creating. You stop hoping for luck and you start stacking proof. You stop complaining and you start leading. So here's the ladder of decision you face right now. You can keep blaming, keep waiting, keep hoping, or you can step up, take ownership, and begin making different choices today. The difference is massive. One path leaves you repeating the same cycle for another year. The other path makes you unrecognizable in 6 months. And remember, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to become the kind of person whose actions align with their words. Someone who chooses growth even when it's hard. Someone who acts as if their future depends on today. Because it does. So let this be your anchor line. Your life changes one choice at a time. Own those choices. Stop outsourcing your power. Stop waiting for permission. Start building the version of yourself you know is possible. 6 months from now, the difference between who you are and who you want to be will be determined by the decisions you make starting today. Take ownership, begin now, and never look back.